Hey y'all, what's good? Welcome to another episode of the Political Chop Shop. And today we're going to talk about the media's indictment of the cancel culture that's going on within the media business. And we know a lot of us on the right side of this has been talking about this for years, since the Obama years, even since the Bush years. We were talking about this type of cancel culture and the misleading of the media and all of that. We exposed it on the surface, but here within the last few days, we have seen the actual writers at these media outlets exposing what exactly is going on here. What's going on internally with a lot of these places that are participating in this cancel culture within the media outlets and of writers, having them switch up what they're talking about, etc. The actual liberals and a lot of the progressives are getting very tired of being critiqued on what they say, either in favor of Trump, whether it's under good or bad circumstances, etc. And a lot of people are tired of it. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about it in line. We're going to read it from the newsprint itself, and we'll break it all down, and we'll talk about it here. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to mention about is the Harper Letter in the Harper magazine. A lot of you have probably seen it. If you haven't, go over there and check it out. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing. Just a few things here. I do want to point out in the middle of this letter, actually towards the end, mentioning the stifling atmosphere, right, will ultimately harm the most vital causes of our time. The restriction of debate, whether be a repressive government or an intolerant society, invariably hurts those who lack power and makes everyone less capable of democratic participation. The way to defeat bad ideas is by exposure, argument, and persuasion, not by trying to silence or wish them away. We refuse any false choice between justice and freedom, which cannot exist without each other. As writers, we need a culture that leaves us room for experimentation, risk-taking, and even mistakes. We need to reserve the possibility of good faith disagreement without dire professional consequences if we won't defend the very thing on which our work depends. We shouldn't expect the public or the state to defend it for us, which is exactly correct. That is exactly the conservative view that we have of free speech, right? That is exactly, and there's quite a few notables on here that signed on to this letter, like Wynton Marsalis, J.K. Rowling, Barry Weiss signed on to it, Jennifer Senior, another great writer, not too biased. Fareed Zakaria is another good one. But yeah, y'all check this letter out. I mean, it's a pretty decent indictment of what's going on in the media right now. Now, as usual, the free speech Nazis are at it again, as we look here in the Atlantic article by Hannah Gioris, whatever her name is. Basically says many prominent writers and thinkers seem invested in the notion that simply facing strong public criticism is a threat to free speech. Is it or is it not? Right? I mean, honestly, we all know that it is in every sense of the word. But let's see what she writes. There's a part down here that's quite indicting, that kind of shows you what the left is actually thinking about this here. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. It said right here, the Harpers Letter ostensible message championing the free exchange of information and ideas is easy enough to agree with, especially at a time when the President of the United States has made himself an enemy of the First Amendment and a free press. Full stop. Full stop. I don't see the President of the United States stifling media companies, telling them that you can't print that. I mean, yeah, he has his opinion because look, the press, it's been proven that the press is 95% negative, right? 95% negative. And just like they have free speech to say whatever they want, Donald Trump has the same exact rights. They don't like it, obviously, because he's dissenting against them. So an attack on the First Amendment, I mean, seriously. But I digress from that. As this writer continues on, yet the letter has led to a charged debate in the current fraught media climate. In recent years, the fences of free speech have often been wielded by people in positions of power in response to critics who want to hold them accountable for the real-life harm their words might cause. Many of these public figures frame any such consequence for their ideas as cancel culture, a phrase both hazy and incendiary that is broadly applied and often used defensively, the way someone might describe an article they don't like as clickbait, simply to dismiss it. See, and full stop on that too. Full stop on that, right? I mean, what are these people really thinking when they think of this stuff, right? What are they really thinking? It's not cancel culture? Really? Stifling someone's speech is not cancel culture. I mean, I understand holding people accountable, but you hold people accountable by calling them out, right, on what they're saying and challenge their ideas. Just don't say, oh, this is false and we need to boycott you or you need to be fired because you said this. No, counter it with ideas. That's the cancel culture's major purpose is you said something bad, you got to go. We don't have any ideas to counter what you're saying. We have seen this for the last 10, 12 years. It's at a height right now, right? It's at a height. So they got the game twisted, completely twisted. I mean, because they fear that if actually, no, their fear is when they come up with their idea to counter someone else's idea that they're going to get slaughtered. So their first defense is, no, you need to go away. My ideas don't matter. You need to just go away so my ideas can exist as gospel. No, that's not how this works. That's not how debate works. Right? If you play it one-sided and want someone to go away because you don't have an idea, you are participating in cancel culture. So let's continue on. The next article I have here is a straight indictment of the news media. This letter by Barry Weiss, that those of you know the backstory, she had been an opinion writer for New York Times for about 3 years now. She was hired on as a conservative journalist, conservative opinion writer, and she couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't take it anymore, and she took it to A.G. Sulzberger in her resignation letter. I mean, this letter is just amazing. What she wrote, but there's a few things I want to highlight in here that she wrote when she calls out the New York Times. In this particular paragraph, she mentions in her letter the lessons that ought to have followed the election, lessons about the importance of understanding other Americans, the necessity of resisting tribalism, and the centrality of the free exchange of ideas in a democratic society have not yet been learned. Instead, a new consensus has emerged in the press, but perhaps especially at this paper, that truth isn't a process of collective discovery, but an orthodoxy already known to an enlightened few whose job is to inform everyone else. That's that wokeness, right? Yeah, y'all have heard me talk about woke Jim Crow. This is basically what it is, right? These gatekeepers are like, don't worry about it. We'll you can write, but we'll critique it and make it worded the way we want it, right? That's basically what she's saying. There's a few people that want to rewrite what you wrote and you spent your hard-earned time on with informed opinion, right? Especially when it comes to conservative writing in this case. And she indicates as such. She indicates in this letter that even the progressive writers, they don't get critiqued like the conservative writers, right? But let's carry on a little bit here. She also says Twitter is not the masthead of the New York Times, but Twitter has become the ultimate editor as the ethics and morals of the platform have become those of the paper. The paper itself has increasingly become a kind of performance space. Stories are chosen and told in a way to satisfy the narrowest of audiences rather than to allow a curious public to read about the world and then draw their own conclusions. I was always taught that journalists were charged with writing the first rough draft of history. Now, history itself is one more ephemeral thing molded to fit the needs of a predetermined narrative. God. She nailed it. She completely nailed it. You look at the CNNs, right? You look at the progressive CNN, the liberal MSNBC. You look at all these liberal outlets. Look at all of them, and they all act the exact same way in this manner. They have that narrow approach. We look. Let's take CNN for example, right? How often do you see Van Jones on CNN outside of the show that he does? How often do you see, right? Because we know people like Van Jones. He's more of a moderate than he's a liberal, but he has a lot of conservative values and outlooks on a lot of things, and he gets critiqued or not any airtime. But you give people like Don Lemon and Cuomo all this airtime with all this rhetoric, right? Look at over at MSNBC with Mika and Joe, same thing, right? They have this narrow. I don't think they have any conservative commentators over there. Any. Something to think about, right? Now, as we continue reading, this is what's very disturbing within the media outlets, as we see here in her letter. My own forays into wrongthink have made me the subject of constant bullying by colleagues who disagree with my views. They have called me a Nazi and a racist. I have learned to brush off comments about how I'm writing about the Jews again. Several colleagues perceived to be friendly with me were badgered by coworkers. My work and my character are openly demeaned on company-wide Slack channels where masthead editors regularly weigh in. There some coworkers insist I need to be rooted out if this company is to be a truly inclusive one, while others post axe emojis next to my name. Still other New York Times employees publicly smear me as a liar and a bigot on Twitter with no fear that harassing me will be met with appropriate action. They never are. God. Like New York Times, man, I'm telling you, we've known about y'all's BS for a hot minute, but Barry Weiss is indicting every last one of you. Every last one of you, these New York Times reporters and columnists and editors and all these people, and you participated in this. You're no better than the people you talk about being against. You are no better. Man, I tell you. She even goes in terms, the terms for all of this: unlawful discrimination, hostile work environment, and constructive discharge. Right? it sounds like she'd have a lawsuit on her hands with the Department of Labor. Sounds like she'd have a real good lawsuit for this kind of harassment because she's a conservative. And see, the thing is, not only do we see this, obviously we're seeing it here, we see it out here in the streets. We see it on Twitter. We see it on Facebook. We see it everywhere. If you're part of wrong think, then boom, you're gone. That's both sides. I'm calling out both sides on this one. There's a cancel culture on the right side that will cancel their own people just as much as the left. This is not an indictment just on the left. This is for both sides of the political spectrum. We got to get our act together, man. We have to get our acts together in this. Because as long as we keep trying to cancel each other and all that nonsense, we're not going anywhere. We are not going anywhere in this. And the powers that be will still remain in control. But y'all take the time, y'all read this letter up, man. I'm telling you, it's quite interesting. It's quite hot too. How she lays everything out there, we have to make sure not only going after these media outlets on social media or what have you, we need to write our own opinion pieces to our local newspapers to indict these other people. Start a blog, right? Or come over to BPMG, right, for the BP Independent. Write your opinion piece there about these media companies. Because the only way we're going to expose these people is to fire back at them in print and not 160 characters on a Twitter or on a Facebook, right? Because at this point, it's up to us to hold the media accountable for the lies they tell at every single turn. We have to do that. So that's all from me for this evening. I appreciate y'all watching and all that good stuff. And y'all, until next time, next video is coming up here probably in about 30 minutes or so. So be sure to stay tuned for that on the Periscope or watch for it later on YouTube. Until next time, peace.